We present a series of 6 programmes featuring ladies whose business it is to make us laugh.
It's disgusting. What is it?
It's a nude.
It's not nice. It's got no clothes on.
Is that supposed to be me? It doesn't look anything like me.
Well, it's got to go up in a public place. We've got to be careful.
Good evening, H. Well. After all these years, eh?
I'm terribly sorry. I'm afraid I don't remember you.
Of course you do. How could you forget your old games, mistress?
Sue, let go of Neville. Well, because flowers don't hold hands, they just touch fingertips.
Don't breathe a word of this to a living soul.
Indeed I won't, sir. Not to a... No. Ah, there you
The Comedians. And this week, Joyce Grenfell.
Good evening, Madam President and fellow Institute members. This evening I'm going to tell you a little bit about my useful and acceptable gifts. These gifts are not only easy to make, but ever so easy to dispose of. I see that several of you ladies have your eye on the boutonniere in my lapel. It is pretty, isn't it? And I'm going to tell you how to make one just like it. First, you must obtain some empty beechnut husk clusters. These are to be found under beech trees almost any time from the middle of September onwards. Cleanse your husks thoroughly and then wire them onto stalks or stems. You will find 6 or 8 ample for a boutonniere. Now, before you colour, you must decide what flower it is you are making. Mine are wood anemones, shell without and a deeper rose within. Sometimes I like to add just a suspicion of gold or silver. I like to think we take nature's gifts and make them even lovelier.
I think first of all I get the voice, and then I do talk to myself round the flat until I'm so familiar with the voice, and the voice then takes over and says the things that the character is going to say. I never write anything down until I have got the voice right, and then as I'm improvising, if I get a very good idea, I quickly make a note of it, but I try to do it to myself. I don't put it on tape except in the case of a dialect or a new accent to make absolutely certain I've got it right, because, you know, one tends to slip a bit.
Shell, do you know, I didn't think you wasn't never going to see me no more again the other night. It's a fact. Well, you know my boy Norm? You know, the one that drives the lorry with the big ears? Well, the other day was Norm's mum's birthday, see? So we all went over to the fun fair for a bit of a laugh. There was Norm's mum, and Norm's mum's lodger, Mr. Pilchard. He's the one that went on What's My Line and nobody guessed him. Well, when we get to the fun fair, Norm says that wild horses wouldn't drag him onto anything that goes round and round. And of course it's this giant wheel that Norm's mum's so dead keen to get on, see? Look, she says, it's my birthday and I am going on it, willy or nilly. Well, I can't let her go alone, you see, so I says to Norm, look, you, Mr. Pilchard, you go over there somewhere. Go on, go and find yourselves a cup of tea. Well, this attendant fella, you know, he says, room for a little one in here. And he puts Norm's mum in with a sailor. And he says, and room for you in here. And I get put in a seat with a teddy boy-like fella. You know, he's got his hair all cut long and curly up in the front, like. And he's sprawled all over the seat. So I say, good evening. And he says, hello. And I say, nice weather for the time of year. And he says, so what?
The breakup of my mother and father's marriage, I suppose, was the time I was most unhappy in my life. I just married when it happened, and it came as a terrible shock. I shall never forget it, because it was a moment of total desolation, I think. We were living at my family's house, and anyway, we came in late at night and found my father standing in the drawing room, and he said quite simply to me, your mother's gone away. And I really can't talk about it. It was such a moment of horror. It all got right afterwards in a way, because, I mean, you know, I loved them both very much. And as I got older, I understood the circumstances so much better. But they did a most marvelous thing. They kept together and they made a happy family life for us to grow up in. We were unaware of this unhappiness, and it was a very profound unhappiness. And they denied themselves to give us that happy security. And I shall never cease to be grateful for that.
I'm going to see you today. All's well with my world. And the people that I meet as I hurry down the street seem to know I'm on my way, coming to you. This is a beautiful day. I'm treading on air, and my feet have taken to wings. My heart with happiness sings. I'll see you today.
Quite early in 1943, I met Noel Coward, who had just come back from entertaining in the Middle East and in Pie Force. I'd known him since I was a little girl of 10 years old. He was a friend of my mother's, and he gave me the E. Nesbit books for my 10th birthday. And he said, you must go out to the Middle East. It's the one place that is rather neglected at this moment, because these are troops doing a maintenance job. They were doing supplies in what is called Pie Force, which was Persia and Iraq. It was the aid to Russia route, and they felt pretty isolated, I think, that army. So it seemed to be a good idea. And he said, you're very mobile. All you need is someone to play for you, and off you go. So I applied to ENSA. And after, oh, goodness me, it took a long time. Vala Tunnard came and played for me, and we had to keep going down to Drury Lane to get our orders, to get our clothes, to get our permits. And I listened to all the popular songs that were current then and learnt them, and we rehearsed and rehearsed. Well, we set out in January by boat for North Africa, and we went practically to America to get there. We went in convoy. The whole thing seemed an extraordinary experience. All I'd had was 2 reviews, and we went out to do 15 different countries, as it turned out, in 2 long tours. I noticed in my diary that I used to do an average of 3 concerts a day, and after 44 days, I noticed I'd done 123 concerts.
Now, Muriel, dear, Mother doesn't want to see that face. We're going to learn this little poem for Grandma's birthday, and I don't want to hear any more nonsense. Repeat it after Mother, dear. That is the way to learn. Hail to thee, blithe spirit, bird thou never wert. Come on, Muriel, dear, hail to thee, blithe spirit. What does blithe mean? Blithe means happy, joyous spirit, spirit full of joy and happiness. Hail to thee, blithe spirit, bird thou never wert. I don't know what he was, dear, if he were not a bird, and it is not a silly poem, dear. It's a very beautiful and classical poem, and Muriel, we don't learn poetry only because it is beautiful, but because it teaches us to speak beautifully. And that, dear, you're going to find very useful in after life.
How I became an entertainer? Oh, goodness, I've told it so often. Meeting by accident at a party, Herbert Fargen, and telling about a lecture at the Women's Institute in the country where I lived that I'd heard that had originally amused Stephen Potter, who I worked with a great deal later. And he introduced me to Herbert Fargen, and Herbert Fargen said, who wrote this thing you just did? I hadn't done it, I just made it up, really. Reporting, actual journalistic reporting of something accurate, and mimicked the voice and the refined accents of the Lady Tudors. And that was how I got on stage. He asked me to come into his review, and I went in rather protesting because I didn't want a theatrical career. I wanted a writing career, and it just built from there.
I love that tune.
Yes, it is nice, isn't it? Catchy.
What is it, Norman?
I don't know. Well, I know it. It goes... That's it, isn't it? You must remember this, you've heard it before. Oh dear.
Go on, Norman.
Shall I?
Yes, you've got an awfully nice voice.
Oh, silly.
No, I mean it.
La la, la 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 la.
It's so rounded.
La la, la la, la la. La 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 la.
Change of key.
What's that?
Different notes, silly.
Oh. La la la. I'm in. I got it. That's it. La 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 la. I got it. La 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 la. La. I don't need it.
Sorry.
La 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 la. La 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 la.
That's right.
La 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 la.
What's going down?
Too low for me.
It's going up again. It's all right.
La 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 la.
I've lost it.
We'll find it. That's all right. Don't worry.
Well, here it comes.
Yeah.
You know what this reminds me of, don't you?
What? Oh, yes. Ruining the music, this is. You'll go all bang in a minute.
Don't
I can't help it.
The date of that, I would think, I know we were still living in the King's Road, Chelsea, so it was in the early 50s, very early 50s, I would think. The funny part about that, there's a story behind that. My mother and I used to do a joke version of Narcissus as a laughing song. Ha 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 ha. And I told this to Norman Newell, who was the recording manager of whatever it was in those days. HMV, I think, and he said, this is a marvellous idea, you must make a record of it. Who shall we do? Who shall we get to do it? And we suggested several people. He said it ought to be a man. And Norman Wisdom was beginning to be known at that point, and he was asked if he'd like to do it, and that was how we did it. But it was quite an amusing thing because for the recording session, we had a sort of palm court orchestra at one end of the studio, and we were the other behind the screen, and they didn't know what they were doing. They were simply playing ta-dum, ta-da, da-da-da-da-da, and we were doing our nonsense behind the screen. And when they heard the playback, well, they collapsed. That was how it was done.
Children, now come along. We're going to do our nice moving to music this morning. So let's make a lovely fairy ring, shall we? And then we'll all be flowers growing in the grass. Now let's make a big circle, spread out, wider, wider, just fingertips touching. That's it. Sue, let go of Neville. Well, because flowers don't hold hands, they just touch fingertips. Sue, let go of Neville. And Sue, we don't want grumblers in our fairy ring, do we? We only want smilers. Yes, David, you're a smiler. Yes, Lavinia, you are, and Peggy. Yes, you're all smilers. Now, quiet, please. Don't get so excited. Now, quiet. And Sue's going to be a smiler in a minute, aren't you, Sue? That's better. George! Don't do that.
I had a very serious letter once from somebody who taught in a nursery school saying that if I'd had proper training, I wouldn't treat the children like that. Actually, it was on the... just a little while after Christmas, they did a bit of one of the nursery schools that I do a nursery school rehearsal for a nativity play in which the teacher is looking among the children and says, where are my Mary and Joseph? Oh, there you are, Shirlene. That's right. Now take Dennis gently by the hand and lead him towards the middle of the room. No, don't drag him. No, let him go. No, he won't go if you pull him. Don't hit each other. Mary and Joseph were friends. It began simply as what Noel Coward calls a talent to amuse. And I think now I look upon it as a kind of sharing.
Sharing what?
This sense of joy, this sense of confidence. I don't know, Leslie.
And yet sometimes you are sharing a sadness too, aren't you? Because some of your sketches are...
Yes, I find that as I get older, I'm more interested in the way people are and perhaps some of their problems. Yes, some of my sketches are sad, I think, but they're not sad in a sort of destructive way.
No, indeed. They're never malicious.
No,
they're never destructive.
I think that one is more concerned as one goes on. One is more concerned with people and why they are the way they are, and perhaps it helps you to understand a bit.
I say, it is Patsy, isn't it? Yes, I thought so. I don't suppose you remember me. Yes, that's right. Lumpy Latimer. Do you know, I don't think anyone's called me that for years. It's too ghastly. Oh, well, my name is now Clinch. I married a man called Keith Clinch, and we've been living out in Kenya. You have to call it Kenya now, you know. We've been out there for years. Only now the children are grown up and settled and back here in England, so we've come too. Yes, I think we are going to miss the sun quite frightfully. Yes, I am, by way of going into the tea. What fun. Are you going? Oh, well, let's foregather. What fun, Patsy. I should absolutely love that. Hello, Miss Davidson. How frightfully nice to see you.
To be a little bit talented in several directions is quite a handicap in the beginning because you can't decide what it should be. I drew a little, I sang a little, I wrote a little, I was funny a little. And every time I sat down to try and write something, I thought I'd do it better if I was painting it. And if I was trying to draw it, I thought, oh, I could do this better if I was doing it. So, you know, the happy accident of finding myself in the theatre solved all problems because I was writing and doing. And I still do a little drawing just for fun. It stays between covers. I don't show it, but I enjoy doing it.
Sammy, you promised me faithfully that as soon as things were under control at St. Trin's, it would be a white wedding and the Isle of Wight. It was our little joke. Remember?
Yes, I remember.
Well, that was ages ago, and ever since then we seem to have drifted.
Oh, no, we haven't, Ruby.
Yes, we have. I don't think you realize how much you've changed. You used to call me your little blue lamp baby.
Well, we've grown up a bit since then.
Do you know, sometimes I don't think you really want to marry me at all.
Well, of course I do, Ruby.
Well, I'm not the only one who thinks so. It's the talk of the police women's powder room.
What business is it of those female flat feet?
No, you can't stop us girls gossiping. You know what will put things right, don't you?
No, what?
Speak to the chief tomorrow.
Tomorrow?
Oh, please, Sammy, it means so much to me. I do so adore you, you silly old superintendent. Just think, 2 weeks in June. Wedding, All Saints on May the 31st. Oh, frabjous day, Kaloo. Speak to the vicar tomorrow evening about the banns.
Yes, well, I don't think we want to rush our fences.
There aren't any more fences to rush.
Oh, that's no reason for making it a 5-furlong sprint.
Oh, do be romantic just for once. Just think, in a few weeks, on the beach at Ventnor. Me in my spotted sun top, and you in your striped shorts.
I threw them away last winter.
Well, I'll get you a glorious new pair at Nicholson's.
Oh, now, look here, Ruby. I'm not having you going into Nicholson's and... in any case, it's time we were getting back.
Oh, must we?
Yes, well, I mean, the night squad comes on at 9:30, you know, and they'll be wanting the car.
All right. You're the master.
What is the true function of a theatre or TV critic? And do the team consider that these people perform any useful service? Joyce Grenfell.
I think it's rather easy to be funny about critics and say that they don't perform a useful function, but I think they do. Even when they regularly damn everything, you can already know that if they don't like it, you are going to. I think the true function of a critic is to have a very high standard, to decide what the playwright had in his mind when he wrote the play, whether he succeeded in doing what he set out to do, whether you're going to enjoy it, is perhaps not his function, whether he's going to be able to tell you whether you're going to enjoy it, but I think it's not honest when a critic does not report that the thing has been well appreciated. I think the great mistake is that critics go on the first night. This is an unnatural time. In an ideal world, I would like a critic to come to one of the early rehearsals to see what you're trying to get at, and then to come and surprise the performance on a later date to see whether you did what you were trying to do.
Life and literature in an age of innocence.
I feel as if I'd known you for absolute ages instead of only half an hour. It's awfully clever of you to find this lovely quiet place, even if it is a bit dark. Of course, in a way I do know you because of your books. And when Alison said, do come in on Friday because Lionel Pilgrim's going to be there, I almost died. I said, not the Lionel Pilgrim, and she said yes. I almost died. Yes, I have. I've read all your books. No, I haven't actually got them, but I got them out of the library. They didn't actually have them, but they got them for me. Well, I think it's your honesty that I admire so much. You know, the way you use rude words and that. And you always have such very original backgrounds. I'd no idea Edinburgh was like that. Yes, I have been through it on the way to places, but I don't know, it didn't seem like that. Oh, I tell you what I thought was absolutely marvellous. Do you remember that man you had in that book about Istanbul? I think it was called Sin is a Fair Flower. Yeah, I thought it was absolutely marvellous. And the way you made him so harsh and so evil and so cruel to his wife, I mean branding her and everything. And yet all the time, deep down, he was frightfully religious. I was awfully surprised when he became a nun. Oh, silly me, I mean monk.
When I was a girl, there was always time. There was always time to spare. There was always time to sit in the sun, and we were never done with lazing and flirting and doing our embroidery and keeping up our memory books and brushing our hair and writing little notes and going on picnics and dancing, 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 dancing. When I was a girl, there was always time to waste. Thank the Lord.
I think I'm a good-natured. I think I've become more sensitive down the years. I hope I'm becoming less concentrated on myself. I know I was tremendously self-centered when I was young and selfish. I'm not saying this to, whitewash myself, but I think that I have learnt as I've gone, quite often the hard way, that happiness comes from losing your sense of self.
Well, let's get down to business, shall we? Would you be so good as to turn off your telly, Mrs. Hailstone? Thank you, that's better. It's very good of you to let us use your front room. I think we're all assembled. Mrs. Brill, Miss Gulch, Mrs. Pell, Mrs. Hailstone, May and me. Right then, May, let's have the minutes of the last meeting. Oh, May, you're supposed to have them in that little book I gave you. I told you last time you're supposed to write down everything we do and say and then read it out at the next meeting and I sign it. I know we all know what we said and did, dear, but you have to write it down. That's what minutes are for. Don't cry, May. Let's get on with the next item on the agenda. Apologies for absence. Go on, dear. You read out the excuses. Oh, well, you must try and remember to bring your glasses next time, mustn't you? All right, I'll read them. Give them here. Cheer up. Mrs. Slope is sorry she's caught up. Can't come. Miss Heddle's got her mother again. Can't come. Lady Widmore sent a telegram. Oh, alas, cannot be with you. Devastated. Well, as you all know, this is another special meeting of the Ladies' Choral to talk about the forthcoming festival and county choral competition. And we know the date and we know the set song. We do, May. It's in 2 parts for ladies' voices in E-flat. My bosom is a nest. But of course what we're really here for tonight is this very important question of voices in the choir. Now, we don't want any unpleasantness. Friendly is what we are, and friendly is how we are going to go on. But it's no good beating about the bush, and we do know there is one voice in the altos that did not ought to be there. And I think perhaps we all know to what I am referring. I don't want anybody to think that I don't like Mrs. Codlin, because I do. Well, I mean, she's a very nice woman. She's so nice with her little car, giving us all lifts here and there, and she's a lovely lender. She'll lend you anything, knitting patterns and all. And she's a regular churchgoer and a generous donator to the fund. The thing is, she just has this one fault. She does not blend. May, dear, I wonder if you'd be so kind as to slip out and see if I left the lamp turned off on my bike, because I don't want to waste the battery, and, you know, I can't remember if I did it. Thank you, dear, that's very nice of you. Ladies, I didn't like to say anything in front of May, but I think I must remind you that Mrs. Codlin's voice is worse than ever May's was. And you know what happened when we let May sing in the last competition? We were disqualified.
The Comedians was researched and compiled by Steve Archer. The program assistant was Janet Staplehurst, and it was produced by Barry Littlechild.